So this is a continuation of the Unit 1.1 video, and we saw in the previous one we did a PowerPoint presentation. This time we're going to open up Eclipse and look inside there. Now I'm going to assume that you have installed Eclipse and that you have set up the preferences as I mentioned before. I might briefly discuss those at other times just to kind of remind you to have them set up. There's a certain code style that we want to use in AP Computer Science, and hopefully you have created a new workspace. I recommend you put that new workspace on your desktop. I've already done all that in this particular video. If you're not sure how to do it, go back and watch the Eclipse setup video that I made previously. So here's my Eclipse program. I made it kind of small. I've closed everything down, so all I see is the Package Explorer, and I see my text area. And here I have a Unit 1. I'm going to create multiple units. We have 10 units in this class, and I'm going to put everything from Unit 1 inside this folder. When I expand that, I see the source folder. And the source folder is where all of my packages are going to be, and I've started out with 5 sample ones that we can take a look at. So for example, that first one that we did was called Lincoln. Notice that I use lowercase letters for all my package names because they're just considered variables by Eclipse, and so they have to follow that. They can't have a space in there. It can't be count space down when you create these. And then here's my class name, and by convention my class names are capitalized. So now I can take a look, and here's that same program that we saw before, and we want to see how to run this in Eclipse. And the only thing I've had to do here is add this line right here. Because of Eclipse, we're putting everything inside packages, so you have to specify which package you are using. All right, so I'm using a package called Lincoln with a lowercase l, so I had to add that package line to it. Up here at the top, I normally would put my name, but because this is from the textbook, I just left their information up at the top. But here's that public class Lincoln. All right, you won't have to type that. And then I asked that you use this style for your formatting of your curly braces. A lot of people learned how to do it. They put the curly brace right after the name. All right, for AP Computer Science and the College Board, this is their format that they use. And it's really the easiest way for beginners because you have to get used to the fact that a curly brace opens a block and ends a block. In fact, notice that when I put the cursor after this curly brace, it put a square box around the bottom curly brace. All right, so this is the class called Lincoln. And inside the class called Lincoln is the method called main. And all of our programs for right now will always have a program called main. And because we're doing console applications, pretty much everything we do will have a method called main. And you just have to memorize this: public static void main string args, public static void main string args. All right, every program you do will start with public static void main string args. All right, public static void. Notice they're purple. That means they are Java keywords. They have to be spelled exactly like that. The word main is just a variable name. All right, it's a method name. So in this case, we can spell it any way we want. However, our program won't work, and I'll show you. It won't work at all if we don't have a main method there. And then here inside the parentheses, I say public static void main string. It's really main parentheses string array, and the name of the string array is called args. Now, we don't ever use this in our class, but you have to do it. It's just required. Memorize this line. You will type it every single day. All right, and then as we showed in the PowerPoint presentation, we have print line, and we'll use print line most of the time in our code. But here I'm going to print out a line that says a quote by Abraham Lincoln, and then I'm going to print out another line that says whatever you are, be a good one. All right, and then that ends my main method. If I put my cursor after the curly brace, it will go back up and it will show me where the matching beginning curly brace is. But if you do it this way with indents and so forth, it just makes it way easier to read your code. Okay, so once we have the code written, we would go up and save it. Now, I haven't made any changes, so I don't have to worry about it. But normally, if I type program, I would have to come up here and click on the little save box. It does two things. It saves lincoln.java, all right, but it also compiles this code and creates a lincoln.class that the computer will read. All right, don't ever turn in the Lincoln.class. I can't read that. I have to read, I'm a human, I have to read Lincoln.java. The class file would be all weird characters and stuff. It wouldn't know how to make sense out of it. So don't send the .class file. All right, look in the source folder, you'll find Lincoln, the package. All right, and inside there you'll find Lincoln, the Java file. All right, now to make this run, we simply come up here and a little play button right here. You can click on that, or you can click here and notice it says we have no launch history. I haven't run anything with this particular workspace yet, but here's run as, and it says run as a Java application. All right, that's what you want to see. It will recognize that it is a Java application because it has a main method. Now, some people make little silly typos and they would type public static void man string args. Well, technically there's nothing wrong with a method called man. You can call the method anything you want. However, it is not a main method. So notice if I come up here, I have my save button. It saves and compiles just fine. But if I come up here and I want to run it as, notice it says none applicable because it says, hold it, there's no main method, so it can't be a Java application, so it's not going to run. In fact, nothing would happen. If I had a launch history, it would go back and run the previous program that I had on the list. So make sure you spell it right, not M-I-A-N or anything, just public static void main string args. Even if you forgot the square brackets here for the array, it won't work. Args, you could name that any variable name you want. All right, but now that I've got it done right, I'll save it. Notice the little asterisk went away right here. That meant that a change was made. Now when I go to run as, it runs as a Java application. And down here at the bottom in my console, I see a quote by Abraham Lincoln and a new line. Then whatever you are, be a good one. All right, let's take a look at that one we did from before. It was called Countdown. And here is the countdown code. All right, and this time we have the print and the print line. So it's going to print 3, 2, 1, 0. Notice they're all prints. So it's going to stay on that same line, printing them across. Then it's going to print liftoff, and because liftoff is a print line, it will, after it prints liftoff, it'll go down a line and then print Houston. We have a problem. So let's save it and we'll run it. And there you can see 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff is a print line statement, so it goes down and we type Houston. We have a problem. Okay. In the PowerPoint, we also talked about how to do concatenation. And so here's a little program called Facts, and it demonstrates how to do concatenation. So I have my public class Facts. I have my main method, public static void main string args. Just memorize that. Public static void main string args. All right, then I have a print line, and notice that my print line is too long to fit on the line. Now I could have typed it that way, but I would have had to scroll over. And so what you can do is you can break your string, and remember a string is words or characters inside double quotes. Okay, so anything inside double quotes is called a string. And I want this string, and I want this string, and I want them to print out. Okay, and so I want them to print out one after the other. Once again, notice a space here too. Okay, that way it'll say, we present the following facts for your space, and then extracurricular edification. All right, and then it does a print line, and notice it's just a blank print line. Also notice that our author put spaces here. That's okay, but I wouldn't say that is normal. Most people don't include a space. One space is okay, two would probably not work real well. Okay, all right, and then it's going to print a blank line, and then it's going to come down here and it says a string can contain numeric digits. So I can print out letters and then the number 12. All right, but it's still just a string because I can put anything I want inside those quotes and it will print them out. Now, if I want to concatenate a string and a number, well, then I can say dialing code for Antarctica and then +672. So this string will print, followed by the space after the colon, and then the number 672 will print. All right. Then we have another line says, year in which Leonardo da Vinci invented, and then we have a plus sign, so it concatenates this string and this string, and then plus a numeric value 1515. All right. And then finally, the last one, they've calculated the speed of ketchup, all right? And I don't know how they did that, but the speed of ketchup at 40, all right? And because 40 is just a number, all right, what we can do is we can put it in between two different strings. So print the string, print the number, print the string. So let's take a look at what this looks like. It's already been saved and compiled, so I'll go ahead and just run it. And then down here in the bottom, all right, we present the following facts for your extracurricular edification. All right, notice all in one line. Then we had a blank line from this print line statement right here. Okay, then we had numbers and letters inside the string. Then we had a string followed by just numbers. Okay, all right, and then we had two strings and a number. And finally, we had a string, a number, and a string after it. Okay, so you can see lots of different ways to write and print things. All right, if I'm going to do a little bit of math, okay, I have this one is called addition. And so let's take a look at this. This is a little unique, all right, and people will get tripped up by this all the time. But we have one that says system.out.println 24 and 45 concatenated, and it says plus 24 plus 25. And some people would look at that and say, oh, it's going to print 24 plus 45, so that's going to give me, what, 69, and then it's going to print that out. All right, well, let's see if it does, because it's really printing out 24. All right, and then after it prints 24, it's going to print 4-5. So it'll actually print out here, because it's going to do one thing at a time. It's going to say 2-4 and 4-5 concatenated, and it's going to say 2-4-4-5. So it's going to look like 2,445. All right, but if I use parentheses, what it will do is it will evaluate this whole line, and it will do what's inside the parentheses first. You know, just like arithmetic, where you do what's in the parentheses first, computer program is exactly the same way. So it has a string plus something inside parentheses. So it will do the addition, then it will print them out. So I'm going to go ahead and save this and run it. And notice that here, the first one, because it wasn't in parentheses, it printed 2-4. All right, and then it printed 4-5. But if you put it inside parentheses, it actually does the math for you. Okay? All right, and then one last program we'll look at here before we start writing our own in the next video. All right, here I have roses, and this demonstrates the escape sequences. And remember, we had the escape sequences you have to know. First of all, there's \n for a new line. There's \quote to put quotes inside a quote. All right. And then there's \\, so if I want to use that / key. Now, you also should know the tab key. And the tab key just basically indents about a ½ inch or so. But we use it if we want to use columns. In this case, they're just doing some indents. So let's look at this really long print line statement that we have here. Once again, our main method, public static void main string args, and then system.out.println. It will print roses are red, and then the escape sequence, a new line. So on the new line, it will start out the new line with a tab, and it will say violets are blue, and then a new line. All right, then we have concatenation, and so it will go to, on that new line, it will say sugar is sweet with a new line and a tab. So it will indent, but I have, and it puts a \quote, commitment issues quote. So those quotes aren't actual quotes to mark a string, they're just characters. All right, and then we have another new line with a tab, and so I'd rather just be friends, a new line and a tab at this point in our and then relationship. So how many lines are we going to have? We're going to have the first line, roses are red. The second one will be violets are blue. The third line will be sugar is sweet. The fourth line, but I have commitment issues. The fifth line will be, so I'd rather just be friends. And then the sixth line will say, at this point. Let's take a look at that and see if it runs the way we expect it to. We'll move this up a little bit and so you can see the code and the output. And so there's the roses are red, then the new line in the tab, the sugar is sweet, and then the new line in the tab, new line tab, and new line tab. All right, so this roses is just an example of how to use what we call escape sequences. Notice the backslash key, and then if we ever wanted to have one with backslash, you could do that. All right, so next video what we're going to do is we're going to actually write a couple, actually 3 little programs of our own, and I would highly recommend that the new people follow along and do this, because really programming is about practice at first. You have to memorize it, and the only way to memorize it is to do it over and over again. And the magic number tends to be 3, so if you can do something 3 times in a row, then you pretty much have it committed to memory. All right, see you in just a bit.